hope to get to as many questions as possible, but real quickly, we have some housekeeping type things. First of all, we want to thank Pastor Stan Grant and the Clover Hill Assembly of God for allowing us to use this facility. And again, thank you all for coming. We do ask everyone, if you wouldn't mind, please silence your cell phones. That's pretty typical there. And you have probably already been given some question cards. If you would, please fill those out. And I'm given the task of reading those. So please write them as legibly as possible. And we're going to have volunteers going up and down the aisle to pick those up. And if you have a specific question for Congressman Brat or Senator Chase, please put their name at the top so I will know to whom to direct the question. And while we understand that many of you are very passionate about your issues, and I think that's wonderful, passion for your cause is wonderful, we want to be respectfully passionate. So we want to try to get to as many questions as possible, and I hope this is not necessary, but if passion crosses the line into disruption, we will ask you to leave, and we don't want to do that. So please, let's try to all be respectful and get to as many questions as possible. I would like to welcome Pastor Stan to the stage now for an invocation.
Thanks again for being here. I just wanted to say on behalf of Amanda, Amanda's been a part of our church for the last 17 years. Her husband, Mike, have been close personal friends, and I just appreciate your heart and your desire to help in all that you do. Let's pray, can we? Lord, we thank you tonight, again, that we live in the greatest nation in the world. We thank you for the freedoms that we have, for the opportunity that we even have to come to a forum like this and discuss and to express. And I just pray for these two that are with us today, that you would give them wisdom and insight and discernment. Lord, I thank you for all the servants that you put in place. We pray for those in Washington, D.C., that you would be with them. We pray for our judges and our governors and those that are in authority over us, our police officers. Thank you for those that are serving us tonight. Lord, we're grateful for all those that you have just allowing to serve this great nation. And I pray that your peace would reign in this room. Lord, I pray that your presence would manifest here. And God, that we would discuss in a way that glorified you and honored you. I pray, Lord, that the love of God would abound in our nation, that you would help us in our fight for unity. Lord, that you would tear down the walls of separation and that you would lift up the banner of love. Lord, we pray in Jesus' name that you would be the God of the United States of America. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Right now, I'd like to ask Sheriff Carl Leonard if he will come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Congressman, welcome to Chesterfield County, and to everybody who's not from Chesterfield, welcome. I've personally hosted 2 town hall meetings for you and never had a crowd like this, so this is great to see. If everybody would please join me in a pledge to our great nation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody. For all people.
I'd like to introduce Senator Amanda Chase, who was elected in 2015 to represent the 11th Senatorial District, which includes most of Chesterfield and all of Amelia and Colonial Heights. Senator Chase.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I want to welcome each and every one of you. I don't know if you know, I know everybody knows Congressman Brat, but I know maybe I'm not as familiar to many of you. You know, you're awesome. Okay, so first of all, welcome to our joint federal and state town hall. Our desire tonight is to answer your questions about federal and state issues. You know, a lot of times we'll do these town halls individually, and we thought, we're on the radio this past Thursday. I have a radio show called Cut to the Chase with Senator Chase. It's a weekly town hall that you can call in on. It's 8:20 a.m., WNTW, The Answer. And, you know, before I ran for office, I felt like there was a disconnect between the people and those that were representing them. And so I have worked for the past 10 years to try to bridge that gap. And so is Congressman Brat. And yeah. So first of all, Congressman Brat is going to answer the federal questions that you all have, and I'm happy to answer the state level questions. But we do want to spend the majority of our time tonight answering your questions after a brief audience survey, followed by an equally brief summary of key issues at the state and federal levels. But first, once again, I would like to personally thank my pastor, Stan Grant, who is the gracious pastor of this church, for allowing us to use this facility on such short notice. We actually put this town hall together in 5 days. Right after the vote took place on Thursday, I sent a text to Congressman Brat, and I said, look, the people really want to better understand the vote that just took place with the American Health Care Act. And so he was willing to come on the show right off the floor. And if you go back and you go to my website, amandachaseforsenate.com, you can actually listen to the recording that would explain all that. So for those who aren't able to make it tonight, maybe you can go back and listen to that. So I appreciate him being so available. So while we were having that discussion, you know, we were looking for a venue for this location, and so I apologize for those who weren't able to get in. We had 750 tickets, and they went within like 8 hours.
But there's 50 empty seats right now.
Well, I guess some people didn't show up, so.
No, they were outside waiting. They were not allowed on the property.
So, I know many of you have questions about last Thursday's House vote on the American Health Care Act and its provisions relating to health care, and I did too. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. But first of all, I want to, what we're going to do, we have an hour and a half. And so what I would like to do is first I'm going to have a brief survey and give you the opportunity to raise your hand so everybody feels like they got to participate. First, I want to begin by asking you to raise your hand if you are here mainly to discuss the American Health Care Act. Okay, good. All right, good. We don't want to waste anybody's time here talking about things they don't want to talk about, right? So, how many people? Russia. In Russia?
Yes.
Okay, I got it. All right, I got it. Okay, hold on. So, here's my second question. How many people here supported the Affordable Health Care Act passed under President Obama and want to keep that in place regardless of regardless of the cost to employers and the federal and state government? Okay, here's your third chance. Third question, my turn. How many people here support the repeal and replacement of the Affordable Health Care Act, known as Obamacare? With health care that includes coverage of pre-existing conditions that forces individuals and small businesses to purchase insurance.
You lie! You lie!
Why are you making her?
So, while you're writing your questions on your note cards, Congressman Brat and I are going to give you a quick summary of top issues on the state and federal level. Does everybody have a note card that needs one? Okay, I'm going to ask you one time, do not talk over me, or you will be escorted out. Okay? Right. I just want to remind you that this is private property.
That's why you chose this location.
And so, you will be respectful. That's right. You will be respectful. Okay, so I'm going to begin by first discussing state-level issues. Did you know that there are more deaths in the Commonwealth caused by opioid and heroin overdoses than by car crashes?
That's a problem. That's a very real problem.
So, I don't know if you know this or not, but I co-sponsored legislation that would make the life-saving drug naloxone available to caregivers and others trained in its use to help save more lives from overdose. Right. And the bill passed, and it's going to become law this July. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Sheriff Carl Leonard, who just offered the pledge a few minutes ago, for his success with the Heroin Addiction Recovery Program, which was instituted in the Chesterfield jail along with the McShin Foundation. All right, we're going to get back to healthcare because I know that's what many of you want to talk about. We try to look for creative ways in the General Assembly to address healthcare. I co-sponsored legislation that would help parents have direct care agreements with their providers. And I'm pleased to report that this bill passed and provides yet another option for healthcare. You can clap on that one. We are also addressing environmental issues like coal ash residuals to ensure safe water and safe communities. Are y'all familiar with that one? So a lot of people think that Republicans are not concerned about the environment. I am.
Okay. He's not.
So
he doesn't care.
What happens is in Chesterfield County, we have a power plant. And we all want electricity, right? That's a good thing. But it produces what? Coal ash. And so as a result, we have mountains, football fields worth of coal ash, and it's sitting in what used to be the waterway of the James River. It's currently within eyesight, yards away from the James River. And there were 3 tests that came back. 2 showed contamination and 1 did not. And so as a result of that, I work with Senator Servo, and I work bipartisan, and I'm gonna cut to the chase. And so Dominion is no longer, should I say the DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality, is no longer to issue a solid waste permit until that study is done, which will be due on December the 1st. So that's, you can clap, that's a good one. Yeah. So that's gonna protect our kids, because remember we've got Dutch Cap Park, that public park that's right next door to that Dominion power plant. So Republicans are environmental friendly, and we do. We are.
You lie.
So, and also the other thing is we want to ensure that ratepayers wouldn't be charged twice for the remediation, because the State Corporation Commission actually allows Dominion to recoup that cost from you. And so I said, look, there needs to be remediation, but I want to make sure you study it and you do it right the first time so that we don't have to pay for it twice. Many of you know that I'm a pro-life conservative. I co-sponsored legislation that would help families who want to adopt by offering state employees time off when they adopt and adjust to a new member of their family. So most importantly, we balanced our budget, which is required by law. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about that I'm really proud about, a lot of times, a lot of people think we just pass laws. Well, I think that we should do more than just pass laws. We work together to make state government more transparent and accessible to the people. My first year in office, I co-founded the Transparency Caucus with Delegate Mark Levine. We've recorded the proceedings of all of the legislation that we've sponsored and posted them on Facebook and our website so that you can follow our legislation and encourage our colleagues to do the same thing. In this session, we actually sent a letter to the clerks of the House and the Senate asking them to install electronic vote recording boards and cameras in every committee rooms, because in the Virginia General Assembly, most of the work is done in subcommittee and in committee. So I think that needs to be video so that you, the people, have the ability to go to the legislators.
That's good. We should be filming.
And I will tell you, I put pressure on members of my colleagues, and I even had, as of the end of session, I had the majority leader, Senator Norman, signing off on that letter, which is huge, as well as about half of the General Assembly members. So when we leave this new building, they're getting ready to tear it down because of all the asbestos in the new building. I'm putting a lot of pressure on them to make sure that you have that ability. So, so those are just some of the highlights from the General Assembly. I know you're eager for us to get to all your questions. So please join me. I want to tell you a little bit about how I met Congressman Brat.
Why? We don't care. No.
Okay.
I don't care.
You guys are a tough crowd. Okay.
No fluff. We don't want this fluff.
Thank you so much. I feel the love in the room. Okay. So I've known Congressman Brat for about 10 years. And, okay. David, I just want to hear from you.
Woo!
Introducing my dear friend, Congressman Brat.
Woo!
Thank you all. Thank you, man. Can you all hear me tonight?
They can hear me whispering.
Good.
That's okay.
All right, good. All right, thank you very much. You see the positive work we're doing down at the state level. That's going to be a theme all night, right? The federal government, I'll lay out some issues. I just met with Channel 6. They came to us on Essex Village as an example of the federal government, how we can do better. So we have people living in very low-income neighborhoods, public housing, Section 8, HUD housing. And they have sewage issues coming up in the living rooms, disaster. The places are not well kept, and if I told you the amount they're paying per month, it'd be shocking when you see the conditions they're living in. And so the federal government has a role there. We're over HUD. And so Channel 6 said, what are you doing? My office has been looking into this. We're looking into a lot of issues to make sure all my constituents, low income, in Section 8 housing, HUD, to make sure they're getting what they need. But this highlights an issue where, how do you think we can best take care of these constituents who are low income in Section 8 housing? And so right now you have the federal government sending a check to big money vendors, and we expect a good outcome. And how's the outcome looking? It's not looking good. And so in your view, would it be better to just give the same amount of money in voucher checks to the low-income folks so they can go buy an apartment anywhere that they want to?
Give them help.
What do you make of that? Federal government, through HUD, through vendors? Or how do you think we should, or is it better to do a voucher? I think it's better to give the folks the same amount of money and let them go live in an apartment complex which is way better quality. They can vote with their feet, make sure they got a vendor who's taking care of them properly. How many people want to go status quo on that one with the federal government as it is right now? Now raise your hand. How many people want to see a change where we just give vouchers to the folks so they can go?
Vouchers don't work. Vouchers don't work.
All right, let me get a sense for who's in the room here. How many people voted for President Trump? How many people voted for and wanted another Republican? How many people voted for wanted Hillary to be president? How many people wanted Bernie to be president? How many people want Elizabeth Warren to be president?
What are these questions?
All right, let me ask you on this one. I want to get a sense on healthcare. So Senator Chase asked, got a good sense of the room on healthcare. How many folks want to see the federal government do tax cuts coming up?
No.
Raise your hand if you want tax cuts. Raise your hand if you're against tax cuts. Now let me go through that one real slow because I hear you. I hear you.
Tax cuts for who?
How many people? Okay, all I'm doing is asking
Tracy, he's
questions
trying to
so
find
far,
friends.
right? Let me ask
No
you this.
friends
How
for
many
Dave
people
Brat.
want to see individual income tax rate reductions for you in the room?
What?
How many people want to see tax increases to fund more programs?
If they help people and
All
they're
right, now here it gets tougher. How many people want to see corporate tax rate reductions? How many people want to see corporate rate increases?
What is he doing?
All right, everybody asks for town halls so we can have civil discourse, so that's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to listen to the people right now.
Okay, we want to ask you our questions.
Okay, if we go this route, it's going to be very hard to have rational civil discourse all night.
One at a time, let us ask questions.
Here we go. These are the real choices that are coming down the pipe, so I'm trying to lay them out for you. How many people in the room want to see more federal government deregulation?
Boo!
How many people want to see more federal government regulation?
Woo! Yes!
Good. All right, so we got a clear sense of it. All right. Let me lay out. All right, I'm going to take
Clean air, clean water.
and I'll just wait till we got quiet and I'll go into my introductory remarks.
Okay.
Okay, when everyone's quiet, we'll begin with the questions. I'm going to take...
Actually, I'm going to first of all cover the health care bill for a few minutes, and then we'll get into the questions. And so if you can all maintain civil attention for a minute, I'm going to try to lay out the federal health care bill, and then we'll have a discussion of it. I'll take as many questions as you want. We'll try to answer everything. It's very clear, right? There's a disproportionate number of Democrats in the room, so that's good. You're all my constituents.
Don't make it partisan. Don't make it partisan.
Right, so let's go over the big issue in the room. And I just want to read you. I brought it in just so we can make sure we get it straight. The press corps can help us with this. I'm going to read from the bill. So this is the main issue that's under contention tonight.
I'm sorry, Dave. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. Please. I'm asking you now. Please let Congressman Brat. It will stop. I will let Congressman Brat speak and be respectful. Thank you.
He's not respectful to
Okay, I would like security to go ahead and come up to the middle doors here. You may do this at other people's town hall, but you're not doing it mine.
Let me read, everybody.
Okay? If I were you, I would be quiet or you will politely be escorted out. This is my town hall now. So sit down. All right, be quiet. I'm at a respectful town hall. Well, everybody will be heard, but nobody can be heard when you're not quiet. You will have an opportunity to speak at the right time. You are talking disrespectfully to me, so you can stop. Thank you. Congressman Brat.
Let me read section 137B of the bill. No limiting access to coverage for individuals with pre-existing conditions. Nothing in this act, meaning the entire bill, this is straight quote out of the bill. Nothing in this act shall be construed as permitting health insurance issuers to limit access to health coverage for individuals with pre-existing conditions.
Nobody stops them from charging as much as they want, though.
Press can take a picture. There's been some misinformation on this point, and that's why I want to come out and do a town hall to share with you the facts, right? So everyone wants to be conscious of science, etc. I forgot to add in my preliminary remarks. I was going to go over it on the Bay funding. Some of you have written articles in the paper. I'm going to be in favor of the Bay funding coming out, etc. The science says that's the right thing to do. This isn't even science. This is just fact. this is what the bill actually says.
It doesn't stop them from charging as much as they want to.
Now let me go over in detail with you how this works out. So pre-existing conditions are in Obamacare. Nothing in the current bill changes that regulation. So number one, that law stays current law. Number two,
it doesn't limit costs.
Some folks in the room that have issues with states being able to opt out of some of the regulations. Let me address that very carefully and slowly with you, and I'll take any questions you have on any of this.
I'm sorry, Congressman Brat, why don't you raise your hand if you have a question,
Well,
then
no,
we can call on you.
Let
him finish. Put your hands.
I'm going to go through
Be
this
respectful.
very slowly and carefully so everyone understands the facts. Then you can have a debate on the facts. Pre-existing conditions, etc., and the getting out of regs, the states can opt for. That has to, first of all, the state will choose, right, whether they want to opt out. So that has to go through the delegates, the senators, and the governor of any state. So that's issue number one. Issue number two, we're only talking pre-existing. That exception only applies to people on the individual market. That is 11 million people in total. Everyone I'm telling you, you may disagree with me on policy, but on the facts, you'll see I tell you the truth the best I can every time. The bill we're talking about, we're only talking about pre-existing conditions and the regs for 11 million people in the Obamacare individual market.
Not true!
Secondly, all the regs you're talking about only apply to people who lose their coverage. Under our bill, if you lose coverage, then
14 million
people for 1 year. There's a 30% penalty.
It's only 14 million
And
people.
so now we're down to 11 million, and of the 11 million, only the states that apply, and then to the states that apply, only individuals that lose coverage. And then on top of that, we funded $120 billion for people in high-risk pools for these folks with pre-existing conditions. And on top of that, we added $20 billion following the Susan Collins model for the invisible risk pools for people with pre-existing conditions. And on top of that, the last few days, this is one of the reasons there's not a CBO score. I agree with all of you.
What does the
We should have
CBO
a
say?
score. On that issue, I agree with you on that
Why
issue.
did you vote without a CBO
Another
score?
8 billion people, just for the very few people we're talking about that fall into this category. So if you want to debate other
you care
issues,
about facts
that's
and
good. But
data.
on the pre-existing, I think all the bases are covered, and I just covered it in detail.
If you care about facts and
One
data,
other data point, under Obamacare, under President Obama, pre-existing conditions were covered with very extensive funding coverage, etc. Only 115,000 people in the entire country signed up for that. So we have 120 billion, plus 20 billion, plus 8 billion to cover what I'm describing, which is 11 million. Only the states that opt out, only the people that lose insurance for 1 year, and all the coverage we just mentioned. And so on that provision, people are covered. All right, and so if I'll take question after question after question on a CBO score or anything else, but I wanted to put that out there louder because that's taking up all the media attention, and there's just been misinformation reported on that.
no.
All right, and so with
That's
that,
not
I
true.
want to lay that one out. Let me add one other thing. I know all of you care about the kids out there, the young generation. How many lobbyists do they have in D.C.?
What?
So let me give you the context here on the federal government
Okay,
performance.
so the American Cancer
in general.
Society,
This is why my
American
solution
Heart
is I'm
Association,
trying to
American
do the
Lung
right thing to get
Association,
coverage
and
for
others
people, but I
all
want
say that the
down to the
ACHA
state level
will cause
where
people
the
with pre-existing
representatives
conditions to be denied coverage or forced to choose between purchasing basic necessities and affording their health coverage.
Right now, we have $100 trillion with a T, $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities.
And voted without a CBO score, and yet continues to boast about how
There's prescription drug plan and interest on the debt. That's $100 trillion in promises to pay to the next generation they're not going to get. On top of that, we're at $20 trillion in debt we're passing on to the next generation as well.
That's a good one.
And so how's the federal government doing managing the programs you hold dear? Medicare and Social Security are insolvent in 2034. And now, so I want to get to the upset. Are you upset that they're insolvent? We met with the comptroller of the United States a couple weeks ago, and I asked him, what, for a 20-year-old graduating from high school, can you please put together what their retirement looks like in 50 years when they retire? And the answer is, what do you think? And I taught college economics for 20 years. What do you think? That's a fun, I like that. I'm trying to win you over to our side. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren ran on what?
Medicaid
Draining
for
the
all.
swamp of the federal government and the special interests of D.C. In the last 20 years, let me be bipartisan.
Trump just filled the swamp with alligators.
What's happened to banking? Do we have a lot of small banks coming into business, or just a few big banks on
Questions!
Let me ask you on health insurance. Are there a lot of small health insurance companies, or are there just a few giant health insurance companies? That is the source of
Read our questions!
What's going on in D.C. With that, how is the free market going to change that? Let's go to questions, and we'll start with that. Who's got it? Thank you. We got through some of it. Thank you. I'm going to try to give you win-wins tonight. We got win-wins in policy. Too often in D.C., everyone looks at D.C. because of the broken politics and the anger across the country right now. Too many people are ticked off because they think it's a zero-sum game. Either I get it or you get it. If we don't get it,
Yeah, you get health care and we don't.
Shouting at each other like this, you will not hear any solutions, and no solutions will emerge. So the people that are yelling are not helping get to solutions.
You voted to protect your health care and not
win-win
ours.
solutions. That's why I'm here tonight. We need to get to win-win, and there are policy positions which enhance coverage and reduce price. That's a win-win. Let's go that route. I'm listening. I'm going to read your questions, and I hope they're informative so we can make some progress instead of the constant yelling. Let's go. What do we got? Ready? Fire away.
For Congressman Brat, could you clearly define pre-existing disease as it is understood within the recently House-passed bill? Are they our definitions?
Yeah, and so that's what I just tried to lay out in detail, is coverage of pre-existing conditions. There are millions and millions
Define it.
There are millions and millions and millions of people with pre-existing conditions. If you're on Medicaid, you're covered. If you're on Medicare, pre-existing conditions. Now, look, these are facts. If you want to yell me down and I can't engage in the answer to the questions, if you are one of 175 million people in the country who get employer-provided health care, pre-existing conditions don't change. Medicaid, they don't change. All the pre-existing conditions that are in Title I, it would take me an hour to go through the list. Right? So you all know the bill, right? It's Title I, the essential health benefits. It's a huge list. No one's denying that. I'm saying a lot of people are hyped up because of the misinformation coming out of the press. If you're covered under Medicare, no change. Medicaid, pre-existing, covered. 175 million people, employer-provided. S-chip for the kids, no change. I just went over the only change. The only change is 11 million people, and only the states that opt out, and only the person that changes their coverage, and all the money to cover those folks.
There's no cap on
That's
cost.
I can do for you on that.
They can charge you as much as they want.
How do you justify the Medicaid cuts to special needs children in the schools? Developing the skills to function in society.
Right, good. Same logic as everything. I want that Medicaid money, the same amount of money, and I did not write the bill. I think, as you all know, I have difficulties with
You voted for it. You voted for it.
All right, let me get to the Medicaid issue. Medicaid under our bill will continue to go up at the rate of inflation. So it's cut from the DC baseline, that is true, but Medicaid will still grow at the rate of inflation. Now what's the good news? The good news is the economic evidence on Medicaid isn't too good. And so we're going to improve the system by returning block funds to who?
Block funds don't work. Block funds have caps. If it goes above the block fund, then too bad, you don't get coverage.
Shinholzer, who works on the opioid issue, etc., I think they would like to see that money block granted so that some of it can go into their programs down here at the state and local level, because they know best how to do it. Instead of bouncing
You didn't answer the question.
You can ask him. You can ask Sheriff Paul Leonard, who works directly with addicts in the prison. He's doing the Lord's work. It's a phenomenal program. I think those are the better ways to actually help people. And if you differ on policy, that's okay. But I honestly believe that's a better way to go. Well, let's wait a little bit for a little quiet so we can hear from Wendy.
We're going to continue whenever it's quiet, and so everybody can hear. Whenever you're quiet, we'll begin again. We will answer the questions when everyone is quiet.
You didn't answer it.
You didn't even answer the question, so...
We have a lot of questions to get to.
Well, then answer that
We have an hour and a half to get through as many questions as possible. So if the people that are yelling are going to keep other constituents from hearing, I urge you others to do what you can to bring a little rational discourse.
Answer the question.
When will Congress pass a budget?
Please sit down. I understand. Ma'am, I'm talking. I have a friend with a special needs kid as well.
Oh, now, so then you understand. It only matters if you know somebody.
Ma'am, you're holding up the town hall. These two ladies, if you'd like to be quiet, we'll continue the town hall. We'll continue the town hall when you all are quiet.
Dave, don't let her talk to them. They're mad at you, not her. Why don't you stand up and answer the question? It's not her job to stand up
David's
for
hiding
you.
behind
You're
Senator
the one who
Chase.
did it.
Thank you.
When will Congress pass a real budget? CRs are not a budget.
I usually do want to hear what I say.
Put the mic close to your mouth, we can't hear.
I think if people would stop yelling, you might be able to hear me a little bit better.
The next one until he answers that
When
one.
will Congress pass a real budget? CRs are not a budget. I would be fired if I never turned in a budget.
Very good. I agree with you 100%. That's out the money. I was just out at the Norfolk Navy Yard with the head of the Atlantic Command and the military. I don't know if you know all these technical. The budget refers to 12 appropriations bills. If you do a CR, that just reverts to last year's policy. So you don't get any new policy changes in. The Defense Department right now is dealing with North Korea, China, Russia, Iran, ISIS, etc. Right? So the military needs some flexibility, and if you go with last year's budget and keep it frozen as is, none of the technology changes, none of the ships change, none of the training changes, none of the implementing law goes into effect. So that's just one example, but that question has it right on the head. We just ended up passing a budget It's a 4-month budget that does fund the 12 appropriations bills.
That was a CR.
That's not a budget.
That was a budget. We did a CR for 1 week. There was some confusion on that. There was a 1-week CR, and then we did the full budget afterwards for 4 months. That budget I voted against. It was not fiscally responsible, in my view. It didn't do what we're talking about here tonight. It didn't hit a lot of the priorities I wanted to see in it. I couldn't be more in favor of doing a real budget. And on the budgeting side, I'm on the budget committee. And the main issue, of course, every year after every year is last year under Republican leadership, we had a $600 billion deficit. Who's that deficit going to? It's going to the kids. On tax cuts, that's a real issue. If those
Why do tax
deficit,
cuts make sense?
We're going to have some serious issues in D.C. And there's every sign that will. All right, so back on the most important piece on the budget, and the federal government is insolvent, if I haven't got that point through. So why is that? The Federal Reserve Bank, has kept interest rates at near zero for a long period of time now. Senior citizens getting how much interest rate on all their retirement funds? Not much. The economy's not healed. Last quarter we grew at 0.7%. Your kids
Thanks,
will
Donald
enter
Trump.
that economy. So the budget has a huge impact, a huge debt. When interest rates go back up to normal, 3 or 4%, the interest costs in this country will be staggering. On top of the 20 trillion, on top of the 100 trillion in unfunded liabilities. And so I don't know how I can answer it any more clearly than I'm trying to do. And I hear a million questions. We try to set this up to get through questions in a civil way. We're taking them at random from the folks in the room. And so we're happy to move on to the next one once I finish answering this one. Question again, Wendy, make sure I answer the question early. Why not do a budget instead of a CR? I said I disagree with the CR logic. I don't like it. We should be doing full budgets. They should be transparent, like Senator Chase said, to the American people. Every step of that should be transparent. For the last 4 years, what happened? We did omnibuses, etc. a week before. Okay, so people can't hear while you're yelling. I just have to repeat the same thing. Okay?
No, you got to move on.
I'm going to answer the question, and if you want it, I'll just answer the question, and as soon as we get some silence, I'll finish answering the question. Right, so for the last 5 years, I've been very clear in the newspaper, with the media, with everybody, exactly how the budget process would unfold. I was correct on all those. We got a omnibus right before Christmas every year. I explained exactly why that does happen. When you got Trump and Bernie Sanders in agreement that you better clean the swamp, I suggest that
Trump just filled it with alligators.
I know. There's a
Explain Steve Mnuchin.
For us to work together, and you boo on the key opportunity to drain the federal swamp. And so,
how did Trump drain the swamp?
So there's your
Explain Steve
Mnuchin.
Mnuchin.
And everybody says, work across the aisle. I'm working across the aisle, and it's loud right now. Next question.
Why do you think it is not important for citizens to see the president's tax returns?
Yeah.
Citizens to see the president's tax returns.
The premise of the question is wrong. I do think it is important.
Woo! And demand it!
Your vote says the opposite.
Did not.
You voted against it.
You guys are creative, I'll give you that. All right, we haven't had any votes on that one.
Yes, you have!
We don't vote on that issue. It's not a matter of law. There are conflicts of interest coming out by the day having to do with Russia with China, with Iran, with elites all over this country. I want more transparency on all of this. So I agree with you. I want transparency. It's not about the law. You have to turn it over, but I agree with the premise of the question.
Make us proud!
Being an economist, how could you vote on AHCA without a CBO score?
Bingo. Being an economist that went to Princeton Seminary that believes in the Constitution. Who's got bingo?
Bingo!
You said that one.
Seriously. That's a real question, though.
I wish this could just be fun. So,
it'd be fun if you weren't trying to kill us.
Because the first CBO is the 200 pages of the bill that bounce into 3,000 pages of the Obamacare bill. And so the answer to the question is, there's 3 amendments. I showed you one of them. It's 2 pages long. So if you have disagreements on the policy, I totally understand that. That's fine. It's a democracy, right? Good. I'm hearing disagreement. Not everybody agrees with me, right? But on the CBO score, there's 3 amendments that were added. Most of them are 2 or 3 pages in length. You can read them in 5 seconds. They all move things in a favorable direction to people in this room. And they have an insignificant impact on the first CBO score. You just read the 3 amendments and you'll see it, right? One's an $8 billion addition by Fred Upton to provide for those people with pre-existing conditions. I assume you're all in favor of that. Right? And I'm not. So the CBO score would only get more favorable in your view. So if you hate the first CBO score, that's enough. You can just disagree with it on that basis. And that's fine with me. Right? It's a lie that you can, no, that's not a lie. Right,
If you would have been present to vote to raise the debt ceiling to pass the continuing resolution, how would you have voted?
Good question.
how would I have voted on the 1-week CR? I would have voted yes.
Since you campaigned to enact term limits, and as of today, no legislation has been passed, how many terms will you limit yourself to?
That's funny. Somebody
6 terms, 12 years at the onset. I ran with Trump and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren on cleaning the swamp. I live up to my hype. And if I say I believe in term limits, I'm term limiting myself. I put in a bill, it got 60 votes. And I'll just tell you on the other side of the aisle, there's not a whole lot of action for term limits either, just so you know how it works in D.C. So the swamp is bipartisan. I see a couple of Democratic heads nodding for me. I'm not having heart palpitations. But that's good news. I put in a balanced budget amendment. That got about 60 signatures, bipartisan. I put in the term limit bill. And we're trying. And so that's what I'm saying. If you want heat on that issue, bring it out. I put in the bill. The rest of the House doesn't sign out. That's what we do.
And I'm going to add to that, I actually introduced the term limit bill in the state Senate.
Why do you believe healthcare should be left to market forces?
Because market forces are what made us the richest nation on the face of the earth.
It's not about money!
But I don't believe that. And no one, if you'll pay attention to what I said all night, pre-existing conditions is in the bill. Right? The safety net is still in the bill. Medicaid still stands. Education funding for kids with disabilities hasn't changed. Medicare hasn't changed. And so, what's the question again, Wendy? No, none of those are lies. Sorry about that.
Why do you believe healthcare should be left to market forces?
Right. So, the problem in the country right now is there are very few free market forces at all at work. If you build a house today,
That is firmly not the problem.
if you're, all right, let's test the A student in the front row who's yelling. Can you name me one part of a house, when you build a house with tens of thousands of parts, one part of a house that's not regulated? Didn't think so. Cars, houses, healthcare, the economy's grown at 0.1%. So you're saying I'm pure free market? In my dreams I'm pure free market. I wish we had any free markets. When it comes to trade, Trump and Bernie and Elizabeth and everybody agrees. We want to have free markets in this country before you allow the rest of the world to compete against us and stay on our clock. We don't have free markets. We have regulations in this country that are keeping the job market and the middle class from getting jobs. So Trump won in Michigan, Ohio, what are the other states? Midwest, Pennsylvania, etc. On the jobs question. The Democrats will win again as soon as they hit the middle class and the job creation. And I want you to do that because then we're all on the same team.
Today's firing of James Comey, will you advocate for a special prosecutor to investigate?
We have oversight committees in the House, in the Senate.
Special prosecutor!
All right, let me see who the genius in the room is here. Who can, I'll make an exception. Give me the evidence of Trump collusion in the Russian.
That's why they want a special prosecutor.
The ACLU is here. And liberals, of which I'm one of you, I'm a classical liberal that believes in all of our values. You disagree? Well, you're free to disagree. That's okay. I'm a classical liberal too, and in this country, you're innocent until there's evidence. So before you go after someone, it's a surprise to all of you, right? No one wants the federal government coming after you.
Yeah, but there's still detectives who search for evidence.
Stand up and give me the evidence. And so we will pursue oversight until the evidence comes in. I'm masking. There is evidence coming in, and we get it.
Yeah, we'll spend $18 billion investigating Benghazi, but not them.
You got a question for the senator? I guess. Right.
Gerrymandering is a serious issue in Virginia.
All right, listen up, because I've been a huge proponent of this. I agree. I said, I do agree that there's gerrymandering. If you take a look at Jimmy Massey's district, for instance, it was called a toilet bowl. Yeah. I have voted in favor of all redistricting.
Woo! Yay! Thank you!
And I want to add two things to that. Because there are some people, some legislators who are pushing non-transparent redistricting. Yeah. So you want to make sure you know the stripe of every single person. If there's something called an independent commission, which I don't know how there can be unless they're elected by you.
Yes.
They should be elected by the people, not bureaucrats.
California.
So I have supported all my votes, show that I have supported redistricting reform, and I stand by that.
It shouldn't matter who's in power, though, how they redistrict.
This question is for both. Do you believe that health care is a human right or a product like a car, where if you have more money, you have more options and better options?
Woo!
Good. That one's a doozy. Is it
A human
right? It is a right because it's in law, and you have rights to the federal laws, the state laws, and the local laws that affect healthcare. So it is a right. On the other hand, if you look at the United Nations Charter on Human Rights, it goes on forever. And so we've said sub-Saharan African countries have rights to this, that, and the other thing. But a right has to have some enforcement mechanism. So you can call everything in the world a right, and if you can't turn it into reality, then we weaken rights language. Are we? Let's move on.
Classic man. He didn't answer.
This new plan hurts so many people. For someone who calls himself pro-life, I am surprised you would support this.
Yes.
Why can't we take the current ACA and improve upon it?
Yeah.
This new plan hurts so many people. For someone who calls himself pro-life, I am surprised you would support this.
It needs to be fixed.
I'll give a long answer. You may not like it. I am pro-life. When I started teaching economics, 2.5 billion people in China and India were living in poverty 20 years ago at $1,000 a year per capita. They had no health care. I did a PhD in economics. I worked with a church. I worked with the World Bank. And now those 2.5 billion people, because they've chosen the free market system, have a life. They now have food, they have health care, they have electricity, they have jobs, and they have none of that.
None
so
of
if you are science denier,
research
I can't help you.
review.
That's economic science.
So he may
across the
be
board.
an economist.
And so now
Literally
in this
none of
country,
it is peer reviewed.
Obamacare is currently all the insurance, the big insurance are leaving Virginia. Iowa's got nobody. It's broken. Why is it broken? Because we tried to stabilize the big insurance companies. Why in the world would Democrats or Republicans or liberals of any stripe want a few big insurance companies running our healthcare system?
Single payer for everybody! Medicaid for all!
Why do I vote against the ACA? Because
independent insurance company.
we didn't do anything. Obamacare was passed with only Democratic votes. Right? Obamacare was passed with only Democratic votes.
Sir, I appreciate your passion.
Enough on the volume level. I got it.
What?
So why don't I vote for a failing federal system? Because the President Obama promised you could keep your doctor. He promised you could keep your insurance.
All right, Obama made some small mistakes. Why are we going back to that?
Last year went up 30%.
It was 8 years ago. We have ways we need to fix
Not
it.
just on the exchange. Nationwide, prices through the roof. The press, I've encouraged, please go interview any small business, do a random sample. Go to any small business and say, how did Obama affect your small business hiring?
Interview her. Let her.
And so how can I vote for it? I don't want a federal solution, right? And so that's my answer.
Let her talk. Small business.
Trump promised insurance for all.
Church and state. It's to you for churches to support specific candidates. As a seminary graduate, do you believe in the separation of church and state? Would it be acceptable to you for churches to support specific candidates?
All right, that's a loaded one. All right, I believe it's in the Constitution. They got it pretty good. The politics should not establish any religion. Right? We fought a war over that one. Everybody good on that one? Yeah. But you should all, under the First Amendment, have free expression thereof. Right? So the founders nailed it pretty good. And now, getting a little deeper, one step deeper, do you want a total separation of church and state?
Yes!
Good. All right, so let me check you on that one a little bit. I don't think you do. Somebody just said you believe health care is a right. In the Western tradition, in our tradition, rights come from man! The will of the government is to protect those rights. The job of the government stay right and the third part.
Acceptable to you for churches to support specific candidates?
Right now, we've got a law prohibiting that, and so I think that law is probably working right, and both parties need to abide by the law. That's the law of the land.
Check with Trump. Johnson Amendment.
I think we've covered this territory, but why did you vote for a bill that would allow states to not require coverage of pre-existing conditions?
Woo!
Section 137B, I read that one, so I think we're covered, right? Nothing in this entire, but no shutting down the answer. Nothing in, I'm reading from the law. If you don't like the bill, nothing in this act shall be construed as permitting health insurance issuers to limit access to health coverage for individuals with pre-existing conditions. That's the answer. Straight up.
Access. I have access. Not affordability. I can't afford it.
Do you consider it a part of your job to carefully consider legislation? If so, have you read the AHCA bill, and why did you not wait for the CBO analysis?
Yes, I think as you see tonight, I know every subsection of the bill.
Obviously not.
Good.
Does the AHCA address the issue of purchasing health insurance across state lines?
No, unfortunately, that is not in there. I'm dying for that to get in there. How many? Oh, good. This is breakthrough. How many people want shopping for insurance across state lines? Please. All right. Press, did you catch this? Okay, that's it. That's good. I'm listening. I like to hear it. Trump says he wants it. We'll see if he makes it in. By the way, just so we can have more mutual love fest here, Trump, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren.
Oh my God!
What will that do to the big insurance?
What? Single payer for
What will that do? Shopping across state lines.
single payer.
Real competition, and I think that's why you like it. All right?
No, it'll be a race to the bottom.
I thought we were doing good. All right, go ahead.
What is your plan to help employees of small businesses who cannot afford comprehensive health insurance?
Yeah.
Good. We have, instead of the Obamacare subsidies, we've replaced the subsidies with tax credits. And that's the answer.
No! That's not an answer. They can't get credits if they don't pay us.
Congressman Brat, please explain why you support a bill that takes $880 billion from Medicaid and gives it to wealthy corporations. $250,000 per year and $600 billion tax cuts.
All right, good question. Kind of conflates two things. Number one, the repeal of Obamacare. Obamacare put in the taxes, predominantly on the higher income folks. So if you repeal Obamacare and you remove the taxes, it predominantly comes off the high income people.
Good idea.
So that's that one. The cut to Medicaid, I've already covered. It is a cut from a baseline, but there will be no cuts to Medicaid dollar for dollar in the real world. Medicaid will continue to increase at the rate of health inflation.
If all of these provisions concerning the pre-existing changes were so fabulous, how do you justify exempting yourself and your staff from these provisions?
One good joke. So I said if we really did that the other day, we'd have to be the most tone-deaf body on the face of the planet.
You did do it! You literally did it!
So you get it. All right, so you have to be pretty tone-deaf to exempt, after Obamacare that happened, right? So you'd have to be pretty tone-deaf to exempt yourself So obviously that's a fiction. That's not true.
That is true.
And you truly accept the circular logic of your assertion that rich people like clean air and clean water as a reason to remove environmental protections. Don't the wealthy nations you refer to as having clean air and water have the very environmental protections you are voting to remove?
From the last town hall, I got the premise all backwards. I never said any of that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Here we go. All right, I know you're all getting excited. Here we go. I never said that rich countries want to reduce regulations. That's what's missing. That's the error in the sentence. I never said it. Go look, it's on video. Go look it up.
Yeah.
What I said was, you want to know the countries that have the cleanest air and the cleanest water? They're the richest capitalist countries with free markets. That's what I said, and it's true. And if you want to deny science again, you're welcome to do so, but that's what all the science says. Now,
all right, well, this is us
demanding
that we have
right in the Richard John Spence, and I hope you vote for the Chesterfield Bay.
That was me!
Good, and I'm going to do it. All right, good job. Right? So good. So I listened to my constituents. There wasn't a problem in the first place. That is a treasure, right? Do we all want clean rivers? The James River? Do we all want clean air?
Woo!
Yes. You want to know the best way to achieve that?
Regulations!
No problem. We're going to bring and Senator Chase did it too.
EPA! 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 EPA!
How many of you are aware of what they're doing in the Potomac River? All the sewage that's being dumped. The millions, billions of gallons of sewage.
And then you're gonna get rid of the EPA. What sense does that make?
That was a bill that actually Republicans supported to clean up the Potomac as well. So
How does
check
one
that
state
one out.
solve
All right,
that problem?
I know we need everybody's help.
We need the federal government to help solve that problem.
So, I can only do things at the state level. That's why I have Congressman Brat here today. So.
The National Concealed Carry
Start again,
Bill.
Wendy.
What is the status of the National Concealed Carry Bill?
I don't know. I'll look it up for you and get back to you on that question. But I'm not aware of any bill pending before us. Last year we had a few.
Will my super high Obamacare premiums go down? I hope so.
Woo!
You'll be refreshingly surprised with a bipartisan answer here. Under Obamacare, premiums are going up 30%. Under our bill, under the original bill that I voted against, premiums were still going to go up 15 to 20%.
How do you know that?
That's not good enough. That's the
There was
CBO
no
school you're all dying here. Right? So, now I'm just giving you the facts, sorry. Under Obamacare, 30%, under mine, 15 to 20. I said that's not good enough. I want more attention to price. That's the problem. Right now, people have coverage, right? They got an insurance card. The average American has $400 in savings right now. The average American. The bronze health care deductible is $11,000. Tell me how that works.
He doesn't want to promise that
So that
our
people
premiums are going to
have
go down.
gold-plated health insurance coverage, but they don't have health care. That's the problem. We have to lowering prices. I think is a good thing. Most people like lower prices, and so we need to do more on that end.
Okay, will we have lower prices then?
If I have
You didn't answer the question.
condition and continuous medical coverage, how will you ensure that I don't get kicked out of my health care plan?
That is 100%. If you have continuous coverage, you don't get kicked out of anything. 100%.
You have to pay more though.
I went over with you every little subsection of the only. If you have continuous coverage, you don't lose your pre-existing. And I read the bill to you 52 times.
Repeat question. Do you plan to require a special prosecutor to investigate the firing of Comey?
Yeah, the same ones. Keep going.
No, that was a different one. The firing of Comey. That's a different question.
This is for Amanda Chase.
All right, I get a question.
You voted against 2 anti-discrimination LGBT bills this year in the GA. I was told by your assistant that this was because your party believes in less government. If this is so, why did you support, I apologize, I can't read that word, religious freedom bill, the religious freedom bill? What is your stance on the LGBTQ community, and how will you support our bills in the future?
Okay, I'm happy to answer that question for you. In a nutshell, I feel like all people were created in God's image. Everybody should be loved, treated the same, and I don't think we should create special classes of people. And I feel like that's what that bill does, and I won't support it.
It creates a special class of people.
In your statement about why you didn't vote for the budget bill, you said it was because the Democrats were too happy with it. This implies you see this as a competition with winners and losers. The question is, in what cases would you compromise for the good of all people?
That's an easy one. I didn't put it exactly like that, but that's close enough for government. And the answer is, anytime the Democrats come up with a budget that balances ever in human history, I'll be with them.
The Republicans don't need them.
For my own party, I mean, it's schools. Like, we're not doing a good enough job on fiscal responsibility. We have a budget over the past years that at least balances in 10. The Democrats have no plans on Medicare, Social Security, or a balanced budget whatsoever. And if anyone can correct me on a bill you have on the Democrat side, let me name the name right now, because it's not there. And we need to work better on that together for the sake of the next generation.
The biggest deficits are under Republicans.
If we don't ask for answers regarding number 1, Russia, and number 2, Trump's personal enrichment at the expense of people, will you be at peace? Also not a question, but Mar-a-Lago, OMG. If we don't ask for answers,
That'll be a big budget cut.
You just stole for time. Go on. Come on, answer the question.
if we don't ask for answers regarding number 1, Russia, and number 2, Trump's personal enrichment at the expense of people, will you be at peace?
No, I won't be at peace. No, we'll get at all of that. We're looking for any probable evidence on any of it. And if you have any, share it with me. That's what my office does. You give me evidence. I'm for the rule of law as much as any of you. If you've got any content, you can give it to me. Yes. And on the Mar-a-Lago or the presidential expense, we got to work on it.
You gotta work on it. Wait a minute. Finish that.
Children are the most vulnerable in our communities. How do you propose we protect our LGBTQ children and teenagers from bullying and discrimination in schools? And the current administration is considering legislation that allows freedom of religion to discriminate against the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, the last part of the statement, there's no legislation I've seen on it. It's everyone in this room is protected on bullying in the schools. Equal treatment of the law applies to every single person. You got anybody that's being bullied, you bring them to me, and we'll take action immediately. You got anybody that's being bullied. I mean, I'm trying to be as helpful and forthcoming. Every single person is protected under the law on that. No bullying is allowed, period. I'll go to school, I'll go to bat for you in any way you want on discrimination and bullying.
Senator Chase, what are you doing to help save the Chesapeake Bay?
What am I helping to do to save the Chesapeake Bay? Well, starting off with the coal ash bill, that's a big, huge part of what I've done this session, and it's been in the news a lot, and that has to do with the Chesapeake Bay, and so holding our corporate sponsors accountable. It's been in the news a lot, so maybe somebody didn't read the newspaper, but I've been one of the top, I've been on the lead on that issue.
Okay, Congressman Brat, will you support net neutrality?
Woo!
That one is fairly easy on principle. I want no spying on the federal government on anybody. I'll vote that way every But on access to the internet and net neutrality, I think my votes speak for themselves on that. I don't.
What are they?
Is anybody in disagreement with the votes?
You don't know what it is.
Since you have said,
He doesn't know what net
since you
neutrality
have
is.
said that you do not believe in the separation of church and state, how will you protect my First Amendment rights as a non-religious person?
The very rights you're speaking of are enshrined in the Constitution to protect you. That's the very system I believe in and speak out on and have taught for 20 years. That's why we have a system of rights, is to protect individual rights. We decided not to go with a democracy, by the way, right? We went with a republic for a reason, to protect minorities on specifically that issue. A democracy can flare up with tempers and loud voices and interruptions and take over and irrational discourse. We do not want that in this country. And so to protect the minorities, we went with a democratic republic for precisely that reason. We structured the entire government for that reason. We separated power in every way we could, federal, state, local, executive, judiciary, legislative. Good question, but I don't think I answered the question. I think I answered it.
Since you have said that you do not believe in the separation of church and state, how will you protect my First Amendment rights as a non-religious person?
Yeah, all right, so the premise is wrong. Separation of church and state is exactly what the founder said in the First Amendment.
You didn't say that at Blackstone. You said.
And so I think I've already covered the base. I don't think there's anything.
Go on.
Right, so on the separation, there should be no establishment of a religion that discriminates. And on the second, comma, you're all free to express your religious views in public, and you should be protected under the law for it. So that's,
Muslims too?
Will you support seniors being exempt from FICA after normal retirement date? Will you support seniors being exempt from FICA after normal retirement date?
Seniors
It
still
says
working.
after normal retirement date.
Yeah, that's too big. If you got a question like that, come and see me. That's a whopper.
What? What do you mean come and see you? Where are they going to go see you?
Okay,
You don't like meet
the price
with
of
people?
insulin has tripled over the last 10
They're
years.
literally here to see
What specifically will the AHCA do to ensure that people who depend on insulin to survive are able to afford it? Will you support a professional investigation to determine why insulin prices have gone up so much?
Yeah, the bill won't do much on that. Trump has said the next mission is pharmaceuticals, however, and that's that. Right? So right now, the key going forward is getting our patent system set up straight so that when generics come up, they really stay generics, right? So there's this evergreening, and the big corporations make sure that the patent protection never goes away. Right? So that Trump, I think, is going to go after them like he has on defense and the airplane costs and whatever. Pharma's coming up. So that's I'm going to do the same thing.
This is for both. Under the AHCA, Medicaid will now be handled as block grants to the states. Once the block grant funds are used up in Virginia, would you expect the state to pay the remaining cost, or would people go without care?
Woo!
I just got done mentioning the Constitution, right? So there's 18 enumerated separated powers from the federal government. All other powers remain with the states and with the people in the Constitution. Now, here's the big deal, right? So there's a difference in philosophy between parties on this. But there's just as much money in the 50 states as there is in the nation. That's a fact. Right?
What?
So there's no issue of people going without. If you block grant to the states have just as much money together as the nation does. I hope you all see that, right? So the only issue is a difference in philosophy. Do you want the federal government running the programs that are already insolvent and being mismanaged? Or do you want to bring it down to the states? Medicaid's track record on health performance, all the economic studies are not favorable. Right? So the states can do it better. They should do it better. And we'll allocate the money to get it straight. And I trust my state folks.
By law, the state has to balance its budget. And that can be a good thing.
So we'll just go without care then. So we'll just go without care.
The state has to balance its budget. And so what we would do is we would take the block grant money, and right now we're in the process of switching over the classifications of DD waivers and changing that classification, and there are major problems with it. There are a number of children even that come to my office and say, even my neighbor that lives behind me, I can't qualify. There are a limited number, it's like a lottery. And so you have a number of people who are already going without coverage, even right now. So here's what I think we should do. First of all, I would like to give a special shout out to my pastor, Pastor Stan, because our church gives out almost $1 million a year to help, which I think is tremendous. So we need to look at alternatives to this. There are choices. Let's talk about the choices. You could raise taxes. That's what I signed not to raise taxes, and I won't raise taxes. But that is certainly an option.
Or join a church. Or join a church.
So there are all different types of options out there, and we can have that conversation and explore it. But I know that the states do have a limited budget, so you have a choice. You can either raise taxes. Yeah, you could join a church if you want it. There's other independent groups.
In order to get there, you must join a church. That's crazy.
What are your thoughts on the Muslim ban? Be real and call it that. It does not make us safer. We are more at risk from homegrown terrorists now.
In the first place, totally against discrimination on religious grounds. That's why we followed President Obama's list of 7 countries in the Middle East.
Oh my God.
The Congress voted for it. Democrats
Trump said it was a Muslim
Republicans.
ban.
Only after President Trump won did that become controversial.
Trump said it was a Muslim ban.
The 7 countries were
He said the words Muslim ban. You lie! Boom!
That is a lie! So you support the NRA and gun rights, but there are no weapons allowed in this venue. What? Congressman Brat, will you defend the Mexico border wall that President Trump is pushing? The question said, no weapons allowed in this venue. What? I'm not sure.
So, I mean, it's kind of an easy answer. The law is the law, right? So you follow the law. Where it's prohibited, it's prohibited. Where it's not, it's not. That's the law. So that's the answer.
So you only want to change the law when
That wasn't the question. Answer the question.
Will you defend the Mexico border wall that President Trump is pushing for? Will you defend the Mexico border wall that President Trump is pushing for?
Yeah, that wall hasn't been defined in any way, shape, or form in legislation yet. And so there is no simple yes or no because it's a complex issue.
Yes, it is.
So what I will say is I did bipartisan bill last month with Rep. Kohana, taught economics, Democrat out of California, Indian, taught at UCLA, very smart guy. Did a bipartisan bill with him, bipartisan, Democrats in favor of H-1B reform, to take the corruption out of the border. On the border, we do need some solution that stops the illegal immigration, and it's fairly simple, right? And so whether that's a 20-foot wall, or if we can do it cheaper in other ways that stop, already the numbers this year are down by 70% since President Trump won the election, so part of it's being solved already.
It's not very free market. It's not very free market.
All right, it's about 8:25, so we're going to try to, we're obviously not going to get to all of them, but how can you defend the House practice of using CRs to avoid acting on the federal budget? Okay, what strategies for defense will be used to address foreign threats like ISIS?
Well, we have a pretty good track record going for the last few decades, and this was bipartisan. What did the Bush administrations do on North Korea? What did Clinton do on North Korea? Nothing. What did Bush do on North Korea? Nothing. That worked. What did Obama do on North Korea? Nothing. That worked. So now, if you want more, we'll whatever. If you want me to answer the question, I'm going to answer the question. This is a pretty serious issue we haven't laid into yet. So this is a pretty big deal. So instead of leading from behind or what other alternatives we had, now President Trump has sent some pretty clear signals in Syria, who is using gas on the kids. I hope everyone in the room is in agreement on that move. Yes? We're talking about. I hope everyone's in favor of that. Secondly, the tunnels in Afghanistan sent a clear signal to not just them, but to North Korea. North Korea now has nuclear warheads that can be attached to ICBMs who have one purpose, not to go to the region, but to go to the United States of America. Right? Iran, I was one of 25 members of Congress who voted against my own team's Corker-Cardin-Iran deal. I think I had it right. That bill right now looks like we have the right logic. Iran is in the same position as North Korea, and they are sharing nuclear technologies. Now we're in a real bind with Kim Jong-un, and we don't know what he's going to do. On ISIS, we're sending clear signals. We just took out tunnels, and I think we're up in the fight across the board against ISIS. So I see some good progress going around the world. Russia and China are recalibrating their red lines as we speak. There's evidence all over the place on that. China has had a very aggressive stance for us. We set up the whole post-World War II Bretton Woods system that kept peace and set up nuclear deterrence for 50 years, and it worked. We paid for most of that tab. We rebuilt Germany, our arch enemy. We rebuilt Japan. We did the Marshall Plan for Europe. We paid the cost. Now China is doing cyber attacks on us, building islands in the South Asian Sea, etc., and are not sharing the burden. Russia is an arch enemy as well. I hope we're sending them very clear signals. Putin lately.
You can't just say, I hope.
Oops, you want to hear about Russia? I'm talking about Russia here. We're still done. Russia has changed its language to a much more aggressive stance as China has. They're no longer talking about the Soviet Union. They're going back to Tsarist language. They think we took that from them. They're recalibrating back to a very offensive stance. That's coming our way. So any evidence of collusion with Russia, our intelligence agencies are all over it.
Independent investigation.
I don't want any collusion with Russia or China or Iran, etc. And with that, I wish you all a very happy evening, and thank you very much for being here tonight. And thank you to Senator James and Wendy.
Thank you.